9 tomorrow.
Will, Luca!
Man, I wonder what the hell these guys are doing. I hollered at them earlier. What in the hell is going on?
There are, several important aspects of survival, short and long term. One being your mindset. One of the ways we practice that here at Sigma is by being happy. Being happy means Leonard, why you drink beer? Positive mental attitude.
Hey, you guys! It's gonna be -10 tomorrow. We're going hammock camping. Get your shit.
Guys are out here sledding at 10 o'clock in the morning. Couple children.
What
What do you
that?
say? Hammock camping? Negative 25? Oh, hell no.
Fuck that.
We gotta get this on, bitch.
I think we need to make our point that we don't want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do this.
All right. Snowball fight.
Yeah.
So in the infantry, it's what we call a hasty ambush. We gotta pick our sectors of fire, make sure we have proper target identification. In case y'all don't know, this is Rob for making us go camping in -25-degree weather in a hammock. He's driving me to drinking is what it is. Oh shit!
Those guys gotta sleep sometime. Got me with the hasty ambush. Close quarters attack. That's what it's like living with a house full of combat vets. Nothing but games.
Okay, so first step obviously with hanging a hammock is you got to get the hammock up, but in a wintertime setting like this, typically I actually wouldn't hang my hammock first. I would hang my tarp and get it set up because, when you've got a lot of snowfall coming in and you really need to measure this in an appropriate manner, and your tarp needs to be sucked all the way to the ground as far as it can possibly go. And it becomes a lot easier to gauge everything if that's done first. But for demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and sling this up now and then add my insulation and then throw the tarp on. So now I've got to go ahead and add my quilts. It's important to keep those protected from the elements. This is my top quilt. Get that out of the bag and into your shelter as quick as possible. And then I have my underquilt, which goes underneath the hammock. This is rated to -10. It's from hammockgear.com. I've got to move quickly in order to protect my insulation. Like I said before, I would do this under the cover of a tarp first in order to protect that insulation. But for demonstration purposes, I'm doing it the opposite. All right, this is the underquilt protector. Just gonna tie that on loosely. I'll adjust it later. This is gonna protect my insulation from not only wind, but help keep moisture out. Okay, so I've got my underquilt protector on. I've got my quilt set up. Now I've got to throw my tarp out. And when setting up tarps for winter hammock camping, you really need a 4-sided tarp, and the War Bonnet Superfly is really the way to go. It's going to protect the wind on all sides and just keep you a lot warmer in general than a standard hammock tarp would.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I just want to break down real quick what my insulation system is and what you've really just got to have in a hammock system in general. Number one is you've got to have some kind of thermarest pad. And without it, even with underquilts, you're still going to get cold. It's an absolute necessity. I've got, and this is kind of an extra, it's not necessary, but I brought a Fjallraven. It's got G1000 on the outside and wool on the inside. And so I'm going to lay this down, and then I'm going to put basically a 3/4 wool blanket over the top of that. Okay, so in the War Bonnet system, you always want to get the 2-layer system. It doesn't matter whether you're in winter or in the jungle. If you're in the jungle, you're going to get annihilated by mosquitoes if you've got a single layered hammock. For winter, it provides a space to slip in your thermarest pad, which, like I said, is an absolute necessity. And so I'm just going to take that. You're going to work it to the corner where the foot box is. You want to make sure the pad comes up high. You don't want it not touching a certain portion of your upper body, because if it's not covering your upper body, you're going to get a cold spot. Cover that back up. Try to keep it as protected as possible. You'll notice, take a look, in here this is actually only a 3/4 wool blanket, and I'll adjust this in the night, and I might even use it to wrap around myself, but it's not a full-size length, which when it comes to hammocks, a lot of stuff, a lot of equipment is going to end up being 3/4 length, because it's your basically your waist up is where you really have got to over insulate that area. All right, so now I've got my insulation system set up. I'm gonna go ahead and get this tarp staked out and protect my hammock best I possibly can. Now you'll notice that on all sides of the tarp, I've got it as low to the ground as I can possibly get it. That's really essential. That way we haven't got a lot of convection, you know, that is wind that is coming up under us and robbing us of our heat throughout the night. And then to up that, I'm gonna start putting snow around the base, and I'm gonna cover in those holes. But with these 4-sided tarps, it really gives me a lot of protection that normal tarp systems don't. And so on this last stake that I'm putting in, I'm going to leave just a little bit of an entranceway to get in and out. But even that isn't 100% necessary. Just make sure when winter hammock camping that you sling your hammock as low to the ground as possible without actually touching your insulation to the snow. And then also make sure that your tarp is as low as you can possibly get it. And it's also a great idea to shelter in locations that are going to be low on wind, are going to be places that are shelters within themselves. Like for instance, here in Missouri, we have large cedar thickets, and so cedar is a good windbreak. Well, this is home sweet home for the night. I got my hammock in there, got my quilts, got my bag, and we built a little fire in the wiki up, keep us warm, give us something to do, cook some steaks on, but that's what I'm sleeping in. -10 tonight, and supposed to be possibly -25 wind chill, so it's gonna feel like -25. Looking forward to it. Gonna test the system. Got my cool winter clothes on, stuff I don't get to use very often, so I'm loving this weather. Gotta love Missouri in winter. All right, so I'm gonna do a little bow drill action. -10, -5, doing bow drill. That feels like a little bit of an accomplishment. And pretty tough to do in super thick snow like this. Give it a little air. Got a little time. This is just some material we had laying around camp. We've always got a lot of tinder around. There you have it. Fire on top of ice. Cold conditions. You know, bow drill is not exactly a disadvantage in an environment like this. You know, when you have really super cold conditions, the advantage is that the cold actually pulls all the moisture in the air and makes everything super dry. And so fire making in these cooler conditions can actually be easier than it would be in, say, the mid-30s when things are moist and temperatures have been fluctuating between maybe 20 in the night and 40 during the day. And so a lot of northern environments, for instance, it's much easier to make fire up there as well. The woods are more conducive to getting fire from having birch and aspen and firs and all these different kinds of excellent making fire trees that are available. And you know, every environment you go to, that environment usually provides a solution for your survival.
Ton of steam. It's like I have superpowers.
Okay, so another thing to think about is proper timing in the use of the insulation that you carry, right? So what I'm currently wearing, and it's -4, -5 right now, with a -15 wind chill, is all I've got is a super thick Swedish military sweater, gaiter, base layer, and then I've got my Fjallraven shell, just Gore-Tex, and then I've got some mucklucks and just Fjallraven pants, nothing fancy. And so in my bag though, I've got a puffy jacket, I've got a face mask, I've got a secondary beanie to go underneath this, I've got a scarf, and I've got some other elements of insulation that are going to enable me to be much warmer when I'm inactive. So when I'm moving, I need to really reduce the amount of clothing that I'm wearing, and that's when you want to get comfortably cold, right? You want to have a slight chill to your body and get yourself acclimated to being colder in general. So that way, when you stop moving, you get into your hammock, you get under your quilts, and you get inside of your little cocoon, you add those other elements of insulation, and come 3 o'clock in the morning when it's just bone chilling cold, and that's when you start to, you know, you always get coldest in the middle of the night. You'll have those elements and you'll be better prepared for when the cold really hits, and your body will be acclimatized to it and you'll stay warm throughout the night. Got some New York strips cooking on the fire. It's fairly toasty in here. Get these babies cooked up. I'm excited. Damn good steak.
Will cooked it up good again. Even though everything was a frozen block out here. Steak turned out great. I'll tell you, in wintertime, that is the time to be eating fat. High amounts of fat. It's one of the things that's going to keep you warm. You want to consume less carbs, less lean proteins, and higher fat-based protein sources, nuts. And those fats are going to get in your bloodstream. They're going to keep you warm. You know, with it being -10, I wonder what Josh is doing right now.
Damn, it's cold outside, but Rob's bed is really cozy.
You know, even though we came out here to hammock camp, I don't think any of us is just exactly itching to go crawl in the hammock. The downside of a hammock over something like a survival shelter, we're sitting in a wiki up right now. It's one of a many winter survival shelters that we have built out here at our camp, is the advantage of fire. And there's a windbreak on all sides, and I'm currently sitting on a bed frame. There's a nice 18-inch thick bed right behind me. And so the advantage of hammocks is, one, they slap up in no time, and they are extremely lightweight, can be taken anywhere, and, you know, frankly, survival shelters aren't practical for short-term use or legal in, you know, many places that you want to go adventure. But setting all that aside, a survival shelter really does outperform most modern shelters, especially in wintertime settings, almost all the time. And so having a hammock is a cold camping, and you know, you only stay as warm as your insulation system that you've brought with you, and you hope that you've packed correctly so that you actually get a full night's sleep. We'll see if I get a full night's sleep, because I'm very much at the limits of my system and beyond. So either way, it's a good test, and it's a good time with good friends, good food, sitting here next to the fire. And worst case scenario, you know, I freeze my ass off in the hammock, and I can always come back in here and, you know, get the fire cranked back up. All right, it is time to rack out. Pretty damn chilly, especially for hammock camping. All right, I'm in the rack. As you can see, face mask on. It's kind of a neoprene thing that has a nose hole, mouth vent, double layer beanie. This is possum wool, weather wool beanie, down hood, Montbell down jacket, and hammock gear, down top quilt. So we'll see how she holds up. I'll see you guys in the morning. All right, it is 7 o'clock in the morning, and do a little assessment of how I slept and whether I was cold or not. And I can genuinely say that I was super warm all night. This war bonnet system constantly astonishes me.
I really thought climbing into this thing tonight, as cold as it was last night sitting next to the fire, that I was going to get cold. In fact, I actually got too hot. I had to take my face mask off and had to take my extra beanie off and loosen up my neckline and everything else. And the sleeping bag, or the under top quilts that I've got, actually clips around your neck, and it was too warm for that, so I just kind of kept it off. Now, I am wearing my base layers and a puffy jacket, so, but anyways, slept really good. Feel like I could definitely go quite a bit colder in this system. Not that I'd want to. I'd rather have like a Kafaru hot tent with a stove or something like that in these conditions. There was some buildup of frost and ice inside, which is expected. There's no getting away from that from venting or condensation, but other than that, I'm good to go. I really don't want to get out of bed though. It's so warm in here and so cold out there. Good morning. It is a beautiful day. The sun is coming up. Had a good night's sleep. Now it's time to get some coffee. I'm looking forward to that coffee. I'm not gonna lie. It is not warm out here, but I did sleep good. I was surprisingly good. I really thought that I was gonna be at the edge or the limits of this system. And I think I could go a solid 20 or 30 degrees colder. And really not probably add any more insulation. And the system really isn't weighing that much. I mean, when you combine it with the clothing that you're wearing, and then you bring your down quilts, I really don't even think I needed that wool blanket underneath. The down is the king of staying warm in wintertime. It just really is. Warmth to weight ratio, you'll just never beat it. So anyways, I'm gonna pack up and get on out of here. And just to show you that I'm not full of it, we're not BSing about the temps, -10, and it definitely feels warmer now than it did last night.
We're going down a hill. Civilization.